Hi Fish Fam, it's Nikachu, Merfolk Master, and today we're going to look at a card that I've had on my radar for, I don't know, years, but never found a really good use to actually play it. And that is Incubation and Incongruity. Oh, you can't even see the incubation part very well. It is a blue sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Now, in the past, this card was not particularly useful because most of the Merfolk deck was pretty redundant. Old Lords sort of were the same. If you found a Silver Gill Adept, big whoop. But that's not really true today. Today, we have way more very unique cards. Tishana's Tidebinder interacts incredibly well versus certain specific decks where it would be Amulet Titan, a Cascade deck, or so on. Harbinger of the Seas sometimes is just a one-card win condition versus a lot of archetypes, especially if they depend on big mana. Sveiloon is one of the more resistant creatures that we have in our deck, and also randomly sometimes we just might, some matchups, Island Walk Lords are good. You might want more of them, especially if they play blue mana. Or you need Tide Shaper to specifically look for, I don't know, you have another random thing to hit, like, I don't know, basic lands, and turn them into islands. But the point is, we've got some more very specific cards to be looking for instead of just lords or, you know, tapping down tempo creatures. Subtlety could also be a relatively good card, depending on the matchup. And I want to test it out. Like, we're really starved for things to do on turn 1. Let's see how well Incubation works in this deck now as like a sort of ancient stirrings for creatures. I tested it out and I have a hit rate of like 95%. So if I miss like 1 out of 20 times, big deal. I'll just live with that. Metagame is still trying to form itself. One good thing is Amulet's pretty big. Murktide decks are pretty big. A lot of Bowmasters out there between Murktide and the Energy deck, so I'm even less convinced I want to be playing with 1 toughness creatures. That's why we only have Vidalian Hexcatcher. It looks like Rhinos is up on the uptick, though. That's good news for us. Rhinos living in. We want to see decks like that in the metagame. And hopefully if the other big mana decks and also the Brood Scale decks are going to be big, I hope Harbinger of the Seas is going to be well positioned versus them, and we can find it more consistently than ever with Incubation. Originally, this was supposed to be for a Violus deck. Like, this is my Violus deck, but I was like, because also Gemstone Caverns can sometimes add green for the incongruity, and also I don't really want to be playing Aether Vial versus the energy decks anymore. But I'm like, you know what? Probably this is good enough. Like, probably we can get away with playing with incongruity in a Vial deck. And I still think Vial still has value versus more or less everything that is not energy. Which is significantly down in numbers. All right, with that, let's get into our Modern League. Round 1, we lost the die roll. We're on the draw. It's a 1-land Aether Vial hand. But actually, there's a lot of cards in our hand that we can't even play off of Aether Vial. I don't even have a blue source. I think if I had a single blue source, like if Mutavault was an island, I would keep this. I don't, because then I could play Unable to Scream and Incubation to Vial something in play. And the Subtlety is like really far from actually getting played, so I'm just going to mulligan this hand. This hand looks very similar to the last one, but the difference is we have lands. Actually, I may not even play Aether Vial. No, I'll probably get rid of 1 Dismember. 1 Dismember too many. We'll keep this. I'll dump 1 Dismember. We'll probably go turn 1 Vial, turn 2. But you know what? I'm on the draw, so I do like the Aether Vial. But maybe the correct thing to do is dump the Vial, keep the Dismembers for just in case I was up against a creature-based deck. Marsh Flat's being played, so very likely we're up against energy. We'll play our Aether Vial and pass. Go Aether Vial. Energy's still a bad matchup. Still not in love with that matchup. Very ugly. Very, 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 very ugly matchup. Looks like this could be Mardu. Yep, Mardu Energy. Johnny. So now I sort of wish I still had my Dismember. Ooh, what do you want to do to me? What do you want to do to me, opponent? Maybe take my land? It's my only other land. Not that it's a big... Well, if they've got Static Prison in hand, this This could be a problem. Take my sink into stupor, steal my ether vial, and I have just nothing to do for a little while. They have nothing to do for a little while. Okay. You wanted to slow me down? They're on a one-lander. Got another ether vial. We might as well play it, I guess. It's not a whole lot of things to get with incubation at the moment, so might as well play our... I mean, they might be looking for a white source. Well, they found it. Oh, but they do nothing. Okay, that's fine. I shall respond with your nothing with probably also nothing. We draw a Mutavault. That's fine. Okay, let's play our Ancient Stirrings. Ancient Stirrings for Merfolk. We can get Harbinger. I like the idea of Harbinger of the Seas. Now the problem with Harbinger of the Seas is they know we're getting it, but I'm still gonna grab it, even though I could get a 2-drop. Like the 2-drop is just gonna die, unfortunately. Okay, we get a Harbinger of the Seas, so they have perfect information, and we pass. That's the only downside that I have with I find with incubation. I haven't played with this card before, or I should say I've very lightly played with this card. Is that I understand when I grab things like Harbinger of the Seas, Tishana's Tiebinder, Subtlety, Svelune, it's face up. Our opponents will know about these cards in advance, so they have more, especially when it comes to Harbinger of the Seas, they're going to have the room to play around it. Like if you crack Arid Mesa and you go get a shock land, you're stupid. You're just playing right into the palm of my hand here. Okay. So they are going to get the part. Whoa, what? What for? I mean, to dig for more lands? They dump a Guide of Souls. What is going on here? How much removal do they have? Because they passed the turn twice. They passed the turn quite a few times. And then on turn 2, they're like, okay, do you know what? We're going to wait on this. It's possible we're going to tick both vials up to 3 and then play this really big game of trying to get something to stick and play. Okay, we're going to dismember this Guide of Souls to be mana efficient. I'm going to want to stop at my draw step, and I'll explain why. Because right now, one of our vials is going to 3. They only have 1 red mana up. So if we draw an island, I'm going to want to activate my vial during my draw step. And then when they float the red, I'll go to my main phase, and they can't use the red mana on my main phase. We drew another Harbinger of the Seas. Okay. I will do nothing with this draw step. I will just pass the turn. End of turn, probably just play Svelune. Unless they want to do something at end of turn, which I don't think they do. Okay, what can kill anything? Fatal Push can't kill Svelune. It takes 2 Galvanic Discharges to kill my Svelune. What is this? Oh, they got Fatal Push. Fatal Push doesn't even work here. I mean, Fatal Push doesn't protect versus Harbinger of the Seas. Okay. Okay, so we're going to put the Svelune in play. So they have Galvanic Discharge. They could use 2 of them here, but then they'll be shields down and they'll be just stone dead to the Harbinger of the Seas. My guess is their hand is just loaded with removal based on how they played the beginning of this game. They still don't want to do anything. I'll put another stop again at the draw step. We're going to leave this thing on 3, and we're definitely going to take the other one up on 3, just given what our hand is. Okay, so no for this one. Yes to the second one. Tide Shaper. That's actually quite beautiful. So... at the moment, there's actually no reason to put a Harbinger of the Seas in play. Let's just attack first. Draw a card, get more information. Incubation is fine. Okay, let's activate a vial. I mean, I guess I don't have to do this right now. I could wait for my the damage step, for example. So they'll float, I'm assuming, a red. But they're trapped here. They can't do anything. I'm not going to use the vial. And then we'll go to the blocker step. Now they have to use the mana. Use mana or lose it. Use it or lose it. Yeah, and they resign because they realize I'm going to lock them out with Harbinger of the Seas. So pretty lucky game 1. Okay, for game 2, we are going to be... we definitely want Stern Scolding. And we definitely want Unable to Scream. We'll take out 2 Lords. And on the draw, I think I'll take out... I need to have Force Negation for their Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Maybe we can take out 1 Sveiloon. Okay, so I want to test Incubation. We're on the draw, so Subtlety and Force Negation are good. Actually, we're on the draw. Maybe Stern Scolding is not as good as just having, like, hard removal. Okay, what else? So something's a little too clunky. Maybe Tashana's Tide. Maybe I'll get this. I still want Stern Scolding. Like, the Johnny is still, like, a pretty big pain that we want to deal with it on the spot if we can. Okay, we'll just keep it like that. Looks good enough. It's possible the card to cut is Incubation, because it's, like, technically tempo negative. If I have a blue for Incubation, then probably I have a blue for Stern Scolding. But we gotta learn. We need to learn how good this card is. Oh, you know what? I sided out some Lords. Like, I sided out Tashana's Tiebinder, Lord of Atlantis. Probably I should side out some Incubations in that case. This hand is too painful, and it's only a 1-lander, so I'm going to mulligan. This hand is not as painful. I'm going to keep it. I'm given the nature of this hand. I want Ether Vial. No. I think this is a sort of tap out and hope for the best sort of hand. Opponent doesn't do anything on turn 1, which is annoying. It's not the point of my Unable to Scream. I always hope they play Guide of Souls, and then I can Unable to Scream it. Well, if they do nothing, then we'll put a Sink into Stupor into play. So a card I don't want to see is a Ajani, because Ajani is not... I mean, I can Unable to Scream the Ajani, but it's not great, you know what I mean? Because it only hits like half the card. You know what I mean? That would be really good, would be Force Negation, so I could eventually get into playing Harbinger of the Seas and Tideshaper this mountain and have a little bit of protection on top of it. Okay, so I will not pay, and we'll Unable to Scream the Ajani. Hopefully there's no Static Orb here, or Static Prison, I should say. Go Unable to Scream! Deal with stupid permanents on the battlefield. And next turn we'll probably play Harbinger of the Seas into another Harbinger of the Seas. Oh, but they found Marsh Flats, so things are going pretty good for them. Another Ajani. Oh, they can actually... Okay, so they can dump the... Actually, I have a Subtlety in my hand. What's going on here? Oh yeah, that was a cat. Okay, I had to bounce that thing. Oh, but they don't have a red permanent on the battlefield. But it's still not great for me. Because they can make like another 2/1 creature. Oh, they're going to pump them up. That's fair too. I should have subtletied that stupid thing. I'm up against a Johnny Kindred. This deck is all Ajani all day. All day, all night. Well, I have nothing to do with my hand, really. They'll crack Marsh Flats. I mean, I don't know what they'll get. They could get anything. They could get a swamp if they wanted to. So they will not be affected by Harbinger this turn at all. And I don't have a hand to defend versus any removal. Okay, I can defend versus this. And I guess we're going to dump the other Harbinger of the Seas. Because I need the Tide Shaper to lock down, I guess, the red source. Because it's the red source that could kill the Harbinger. So ideally, we find, I guess, a Lord of Atlantis. So I can start, like, you know, putting some holes in this Ajani over here. Gonna surgical extract my subtlety. But you want to know what's in my hand? This is getting like ultimate immediately. What is this? Each opponent chooses an artifact, a creature, enchantment, and planeswalker from the non-land permanents they control, then sack the rest. Okay. Well, I got one creature in play, so you're probably not going to choose that line. So I didn't really expect the +1/+1 counter thing. I actually much strongly suspected that they were going to play 0 to have another 2/1 in play. I guess they're just going aggro. Maybe this line is also fine. I mean, I'm going to get hit for 8. That's not nothing here. It's not like I have a good plan on the following turns. Incubation! Alright, let's incubate. Tishana's Tidebinder and another Harbinger of the Seas. I guess we're going to get the Tishana's Tidebinder. What to do with this, though? If I play Tide... Well, I'm going to play my Tide Shaper, and I'm going to feel pretty poor about this. But we have to lock the red mana down. And I guess we'll attack a Johnny. This is hopeless. Let's just concede. I'm going to attack a Johnny. They're going to pump everything up. They're going to attack me. I have to chump block with... the Tide Shaper. It'd be very sad. Okay, okay, I'm on the play. Let's be a little bit more... Okay, let's remove one incubation and add a Stern Scolding. Damn. In theory, Unable to Scream is good in this matchup. But in practice, I'm just not getting the boards for it. Like, my opponent either, like, doesn't play any 1-drops. Like, that's the great thing about Unable to Scream. You have a 1-drop, all right, I immediately deal with it with Unable to Scream, and I don't take any damage like I would with Dismember. But in that game, they had, like, not 1, but 2 Ajani's to screw me over. Which, in that case, it would have been better to have Stern Scolding in that game. All right, well, this is what we're rolling with. I don't know. With this deck's configuration, I have absolutely no idea what would be the best thing to do versus our opponent. Our hand is sort of nice. It's okay. Yeah, not in love with the Lord. Especially since we'll just play it on turn 2 and it'll probably die. So something important to note about this deck is that they only have 1 mountain. Okay, so they got a plains. Okay, that's fine. God His Souls can resolve. And it will perish. But they only have 1 mountain in the deck. I think maybe 1 plains and no swamps, generally speaking. We're gonna go Merfolk. We'll play our Lord. And then we'll make a decision about what we want to do, depending on what they do on turn 2. We could Subtlety, or maybe we'll just let whatever resolve. You know what's interesting? They had surgical extraction in versus us. Oh, they had the Arid Mesa. That's a bit unfortunate. Arid Mesa is very good versus... Arid Mesa is like the gold in this matchup. Because it can find the mountain. There's just not a whole lot of ways of finding that mountain. That is one of them. Well, now Harbinger of the Sea with 2 basic lands in play, the Harbinger of the Seas is very poor. So I guess we're just gonna pass. And we have a bit of a beatdown option. We have now set up the situation where we can subtlety a creature, and then with the evoke trigger on the stack, we Tishana's Tidebinder the evoke. If they want to do nothing, I guess we're going to do nothing for a little while. Drawing and play lands is great. This is not where I want to play this Tishana's Tidebinder, but I think we're going to take what we can get here. Another land. They don't have that many lands in their deck. Godless Shrine. Flage again. So Flage resolves. A good subtlety. What if I subtlety? What if I subtlety and follow it up with Harbinger of the Seas? Doesn't seem like they have Galvanic Discharge. They might. Yeah, so the way it goes is with this evoke trigger on the stack, you could like play Tishana's Tidebinder, counter it, but the whole subtlety, put this thing back on top of your deck thing still resolves. Okay, I'm taking a pretty greedy line here. I wonder, maybe they side out all their 1-drops, which sounds insane to me, but maybe that's just what they do. They're like, Oscillate Pride, this is no good. Ragavan, this is no good. Okay, they put it on top of their library. That's good. I hope they can't play it. Oh, no, they can play it. They can't play the second half. Oh, I made a mistake. Oh, mistakes were made here, chat. Oh, yeah. Okay, that was actually supposed to resolve. Oops. Okay, so this thing's going to die anyway. Okay, well, we're just going to have to let it go. So we need to let Flage resolve. Ugh. Nasty. I was like, I can follow this up with Harbinger of the Seas. No, that is after it goes into the graveyard. Oh, you do have your 1-drops. Okay, so that okay, so the thing is I had to let that thing resolve last time. Subtletying it was above and beyond stupid. Okay, drawing a... I actually don't know what I want to draw. So it seems like drawing anything is useless here. I need to hope our opponent doesn't have removal. And they have like a really clunky hand. It's a nice card. Svaeloon's very nice, but it's not the time for Svaeloon right now. It's the time for the Harbinger of the Seas. Oh, good. They stopped doing things. We got Stern Scolding, which is not really that useful on this board state. So what I'm hoping is they've got like Orcish Bowmasters galore. Yeah, that's basically it. I'm hoping they have Orcish at first I thought maybe they have multiple Flages. What's it called? Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Seems like they've got a lot of fatal pushes that they couldn't use because we didn't have any creatures in play, and also appears that they have a lot of what's it called? Fatal pushes and Bowmasters in hand. Come on. Force negation. That's okay. Okay, that's good because now we have a replacement Harbinger of the Seas. Just in case they deal with the first one. And Svelun is now indestructible. Okay, things are coming up Millhouse for us. Okay, well, we win after blundering terribly. I could have played that game with an extra subtlety and a Master of the Pearl Trident in my hand, which would have made this game infinitely easier to play. But instead, I did it the hard way. What I was thinking was that I want to subtlety the Flage, and then play Harbinger of the Seas to prevent them from playing Flage again. But no, the front half could be played off of the Plains and Mountain. So anyway, our opponent, we were lucky our opponent had a hand that could not actually use their basic lands. And they didn't have an aggro start. So Mardu is easier than... what's it called? Mardu is easier than the Boros version, but it's still very, very difficult. But I'm happy to take the win there. All right, that was match 1. Let's move on to match 2. Match 2, we won the die roll. We're on the play. I'm going to keep this. We can go turn 1 Vial, turn 2 Incubation. Our opponent mulligan to 6 cards. And now, like... So, I mean, this was originally why I didn't want to play with Vial in an Incubation deck, because I wanted to play Incubation turn 1. But, honestly, like, the more clunky you make your deck... the harder it is to actually use just the lands. Like, Aether Vial just helps. It's too much. Still the, too bad it just wasn't blue, that's all. It's still the Soul Ring of Modern. Soul Ring of Legacy. Trusty Aether Vial. But it's in hands like this also where Aether Vial feels poor, because the more I want to use pitch cards, the worse Aether Vial gets. I would rather this was just a land in the first place. But not always. Opponent starts off with Mystery Rainforest, which could be anything these days. Could be Omnath, could be Living End, could be Rhinos now, could be Murktide, could be different flavors of Murktide. Okay, probably very likely Murktide at this point. The Inquisition. Okay. Take whatever you want. It'd be interesting if they take the Incubation. It's basically my Ancient Stirrings, but they'll know what I get when I get it. I took the Lord. Makes sense, makes sense. Now we definitely want to play Incubation because these decks have... Murktide decks have a lot of counter magic. So you want to be able to get underneath it. All right, easy decision. Take another Lord. Play the land that they know about and pass. And we will absolutely be ticking this Vial up from 2 to 3 to 4 to help cast our subtleties. Which are like fine in this matchup. Not great, but fine. It's great if you can hit a Murktide. Okay, this is when if they're gonna shock themselves, or sorry, bolt themselves with Soporific Springs, it's a sign that they have a lot of cards in hand, like a lot. Psychic Frog, let's slow the game down. It's gonna be hard to use my Force of Negation anyway. They do have some removal, but not that much. Most important thing is Force Negation. Yeah, so the Force of Negation is just not likely to hit anything. They put their thing on top. So they'll very likely be tapped out at least once. Harbinger of the Seas is... it's like okay, but it's not great. Okay, we'll pass. And I'll just hope my opponent draws and then passes. Or sorry, draws, plays Psychic Frog, then passes. But we're going to be racing the crap out of this card after I play this Harbinger of the Seas. Okay, the best thing I could draw is a 2-drop here, because I'm going to tick the Vial up to 3, and being able to use our mana and go in big would be great. That's a shame. Just not as Tidebinder is nice. It's a nice card versus Psychic Frog, too. Okay. Do I attack? I attack, you block, you activate. Tishana's Tidebinder, you activate again. Well, that's not good news. Okay, so we are going to start this party off with a Harbinger of the Seas. Okay, so that disables any removal. So they draw a card. They dump 5 counters onto Psychic Frog. They attack for 6. Next turn it's 7. Although I can Tishana's Tidebinder at least one of them. Yeah, so here they go. They will dump everything. I mean, maybe not everything. They might have an Oculus. Which, if they have the Oculus, I guess I let it resolve. I'm not going to block this thing. No, thank you. Oh, no, they can't have the Oculus. You have to... The graveyard needs to be filled up for that. Okay, so they're going to draw a card. Oh, yeah, I mixed up my math. They could have dumped their hand, and they actually get 1 more point of damage when they draw. Oh, it looks like they have Soporific Springs here. Okay, I'm not going to tick my vial up. Do they have Snapcaster Mage? I hope not. That'd be awkward. Oops, I forgot to play my Aether Vial. It probably would have just eaten a counterspell, but still better than not. Anyway, I plan on hitting something off this Psychic Frog. If it's the damage trigger, fine. If it's a pump, well, fine. I'll also hit that. Actually, maybe it'll be useful to have an Aether Vial in my hand. Because it could represent, theoretically, a blue card. And they do know about... I think they know about this subtlety? I don't remember now. Put a +1/+1 counter. Okay, let's... No, how about not? Shah's Tidebinder, this ability. So you won't get the draw. You won't get the pump. Okay, and then resign. Now, in general, Murktide should be a good matchup. We'll bring in Stern Scolding for both Bowmasters and Psychic Frog. Unable to Scream, not the greatest. It's like they can still like pump up their Psychic Frog a few times. Like they still have counters, they'll still get value. Bowmaster's got value if it enters the battlefield. The Oculus will get value before your turn, and for that reason Dismember is better. What else to say? So Unable to Scream, I was hoping it was going to be better in this matchup. Like same thing with Murktide. If they get counters on the Murktide, it's still like a creature with some power. So it's just not what I thought it was going to be. But I have to take out some cards. They do have some nasty things to hit with Force Nick. Oh, take out some Harbinger of the Seas. It won us there. It's not reliable. I also don't even find that it's necessary. Like, this is a deck that plays their own Harbinger of the Sea, so how good can it actually be? So maybe we'll take out... So if I take out how many? How many creatures do we have? 22 creatures? Do I take out some Incubations there? Look at that, Incubation helped us find another Lord. I don't know if I mentioned this. We have 6 Lords, because I'm hoping that the 4 Incubations make up for the missing 2. While still being able to represent other creatures in our deck. Just thinking if I should bring in Flare of Denial. Just not bad, but I also don't have a whole lot of like fodder for it. Maybe I'll just keep it as it is. We have 2 Harbinger of the Seas, but definitely one of the weaker cards in this matchup. Let's just say it's situational. It can win. Probably Aether Vial had a greater greater influence on that game than the Harbinger of the Seas did? Probably. I don't know for sure. But if our opponent needs to, they can just go get a swamp. We'll keep this hand. It'd been nicer to have like 2 islands so I can go Tide Shaper and then Tide Shaper into Stern Scolding. Okay, that's great. So I'm not even going to tap out here. I want Stern Scolding up for Psychic Frog. Next turn we can play Tide Shaper and hold up Stern Scolding. See? See? They got the swamp. They're prepared. They don't want to F around this time. They probably had Fatal Pushes in their hand. Fatal Pushes for days. Island. Beautiful island. Ooh. The turn. What's gonna look less sus? Actually, that looks great. Actually, we got the turn 2 Ether Vial, so we can still hold up our Stern Scolding. Doesn't look suspicious at all. Doesn't look suspicious at all. And when they tap out, we can Tide Shaper the damn swamp. Alright, they're playing patiently. We're playing patiently. What to do here? If they crack Scalding Tarn, the only counterspells that they have up are Stern Scolding, which does hit me hard. Yeah, I think I don't really want to run into Stern Scolding. I can't fight back against it. A lot of lands in that graveyard. Well, the game is playing out slow enough that they can go probably Psychic Frog, Counterspell, backup. Alright, here I go. Tide Shaper. Ta-da! 2/2 creature. Is it deserving of your Fatal Push? Apparently not. Not yet, at least. I'm going to keep the Vial on 1, so I don't have to tap out ever for this Tide Shaper. I will simply attack into what is likely at least 1 Bowmasters. Wow, gets and connects damage. Do I need the Sink in my hand? I would rather have it in my hand, just in case my opponent resolves a Murktide or something. Inquisition! Super rude card. I guess I have to let it resolve. I'm not going to play Tide Shaper. I'll let my opponent give me the decision to play Tide Shaper or not. I suspect the Stern Scolding is going, but I can't be sure. It really depends on their hand, and whatever they take is going to tell me quite a bit about their hand. Like if they take Sink, maybe it very likely means they've got like Murktide. Could potentially mean they have Toxic Deluge. Also forgot, they're playing with the Graveyard Trespasser these days, so having a random card in your hand when you need to kill their Graveyard Trespasser with, say, Dismember is good. So just playing out all my land drops, like there's even more reason to have a Sink into Stupor into in my hand. Well, apparently my hand makes things really complicated. They took the Tishana's Tidebinder. That's fascinating. What could that possibly mean? Well, I'm gonna keep the beats going, even though it could play into a Sweeper potentially. But I do have the Sink. Mutavault. Let's attack with a bunch of creatures. And I won't commit a Lord to the board if I don't have to. Fatal Push on Mutavault seems pretty natural. Just attack again for 4. Hmm. Maybe I should have just attacked with these two. Not with the Mutavault. No, I can't sync, and I could have like sync and dismember. Oh well. Okay, that's okay. We'll just pass. If they Another thing, if they have Toxic Deluge, they still got to pay some life for it, so it's not completely free. I can play Master of the Pearl Trident and then follow it up with attacking for 5, which is not terrible. Puts them at a precariously low life total anyway. Toxic Deluge for 2. Yep. I just have to hope my opponent doesn't have more Fatal Pushes. Which they might. But if they do, then whatevers. They apparently have a pretty interactive hand. Or again, maybe it's a bunch of counter spells. You can never tell. Like Ether Vial, very good in this matchup. I'm gonna keep the Vial on 2 until I get more information. Cavern of Souls it's a card. Okay, so I guess for combat, I'm just not gonna let my opponent know what I have in my hand. Post combat, I'll play Cavern of Souls and hold up Stern Scolding and Dismember. Because I think they know about all these cards. Like, they have perfect information. Fatal Push what? Maybe they have another Toxic Deluge in their hand. And they're like, I want to hit the Mutavault Toxic Deluge, this dummy. This dummy's more valuable, but like this dummy's not bad either. Dodges the Toxic Deluges. Oh, interesting. Okay. That's fair. Cavern of Souls on Merfolk. Screw those counter spells even more. One advantage to killing the Lord is like this is going to tax my mana every turn. It's going to be harder to play Sink into Stupor if I really need to. Okay, here comes Murktide. How many? 6? Sorry, 4. So we can get up to a 7/7. Probably you can like play 3 so Dismember doesn't kill it. One interesting thing, actually, is when I play Sink into Stupor, my blue mana will be down, so I won't have Stern Scolding up if they follow it up with Psychic Frog. Here comes Murktide. Big Murktide. 6/6. As predicted. Okay, they didn't play the Watergrave untapped, which means they don't have Counterspell. They might have Spell Pierce, but they don't have Counterspell. I'm going to leave the Vial on 2 again. We got Svelune, which is nice. Okay, let's cast this. Let's bounce. Murktide. And when they replay it, if they want to replay it, it will be dismemberable. I do get got by Spell Pierce here. Always feels bad when my opponent has Spell Pierce in hand. Or sorry, when my opponent plays Spell Pierce versus me, because it's such a bad card in the matchup. But they have so many bad cards in the matchup that they got to keep a few in. Okay, so that ends up getting bounced. So they can replay it, and it'll be a 4/4, and then we can dismember it pretty comfortably. Here's Bowmasters. Okay, yeah, they'll want to get it in while they can. Stern Scolding offline. Actually, that's going to be annoying because I have the Svelune in my hand. So this is just going to be a standoff between a Bowmasters and a Svelune because Svelune can't. So, okay, well, I'll see how what my opponent wants to do. There's a world where I want to dismember the Bowmasters instead of saving it for the Murktide. Okay, they did not want to tap out for their Murktide, so we're going to take the Vial up to 3. We have a Sink. Does that help me at all? Not really. No, we're just going to pass. That's a wild move. I don't even know if they can beat the Mutavault. Okay, we'll play our Sveilun. Let's see what value we can get out of this thing. Generally, it's going to be like a Howling Mine in this situation where we're going to attack. Bowmaster's triggers. We're gonna draw a card. We get 2 cards a turn, but they get to ping us and always have an Orc army to block the Sveilun every single turn. But hopefully, this 2 cards a turn that we start accumulating will be good enough to win. Or like be good enough to pull ahead. What is this? Another Bowmaster? I will Stern Scolding this a second Bowmasters. I'm not going to deal with 2 of them. Oh, Drown in the Lock. Destroy target creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard. Can't bounce this thing. I guess it's dead. Jolly Jillikers. My creature died. We have a Lord. Is this useful here? Well, it's useful enough. We don't need Sink into Stupor to beat Murktide. They can tap out for it, and then on our turn we can sink it. Or even just sink it on their turn. It's not that big of a deal. But I'm not going to activate Mutavault and attack because I still want Stern Scolding up. Damn, Lord, I needed you like last turn to protect my Sveilun. And the life total is super precarious, so this Mutavault can go all the way, for sure. We ready for Murktide? Are we ready, opponent? What is Oculus? It's you have to exile 8 cards in your graveyard? I don't remember what the clause is. Okay, that means they have another Bowmasters. I mean, I don't care. So the problem is if I activate Mutavault to block, then they'll be... my Stern Scolding's offline. So I'm just going to let them attack. Which also makes it harder for a second Bowmasters to come down. Oh, is this Toxic Deluge again? Oh, okay, that's fine. Well, I'm not thrilled about it, but okay. Oh, can they Murktide from here? And they have 1, 2, 3. Oh. I see, I see. That's your idea. So Murktide comes back. It's a 6/6 again. But we can sink it. Tishana's Tidebinder, which is fine-ish. I think they know about this card. Anyway, not much I can do about it. Okay, so again, they can... Stern Scolding offline! Damn, Inquisition. Just know too much. Know too much. Here's the real question. How do I play this Tishana's Tidebinder? Do I just throw it out there? Or do I try to get, like, some actual value? I think I just throw it out there. Okay, they have Murktide in hand. They don't have Psychic Frog. They could have a bunch of counter spells that they just can't use. So I think we're just going to throw Tishana's Tidebinder out, attack with Mutavault, and get our opponent dead. Actually, they if I read deeper, they should crack Polluted Delta, unless there's nothing else to get. Maybe there's no land, no untapped land that they can get. Because they could have cracked it and played the Murktide as a 3-3. It would have died to Dismember, though. Maybe that was the problem, because they know I have Dismember. I have another Stern Scolding. Nice. Those Toxic Deluges have been working for us. Okay, and they just resigned. Okay, so they just had 2 counterspells in their hand. Aether Vial has won it again versus the Murktide decks. That was round 2. Move on to round... actually, I just want to talk about Incubation. I think we had that one game in the first game where Incubation found a Lord. So it just showed, like, you know, I can reduce some Lords, and Incubation still acts as like a pseudo Lord in that situation. Just trying to derive some information about how good Incubation is in the deck overall. Okay, that was round 2. Let's move on to round 3. Here for round 3, we're on the draw. Our hand is actually sort of decent. We have a little bit of everything here. We have a little potential creature removal, maybe some interaction for the opponent. I'll keep. It's also possible that, you know, we could go Tide Shaper, hit the basic land, go Harbinger of the Seas. I like that. I like that a lot. What does this mean? Aether Vial. Looks like some sort of Death and Taxes deck of some sort. Our Tide Shapers and Harbingers are going to be way worse. Way worse if there's an Aether Vial on the board. So let's just deal with that Aether Vial. We have another Force Negation. And I'll attempt to just like pick off the lands with Tide Shapers and Harbinger of the Seas. We do need one more land, by the way. Okay, apparently that Force Negation on the Vial was good enough. My opponent just says, well played. Big fan, by the way. Someday I'll go for the Merfolks. Okay, I assume this is... So, this is going to pay 3 life if you don't enter the battlefield. What's the other half? Which enchanter enters the battlefield, destroy our artifact or enchantment opponent controls? I think it's some sort of Death and Taxes deck. Not really familiar with what is in this Death and Taxes deck, if there's anything in there. Because if there's flicker effects, unable to scream would be bad. Oh, also they just showed us that enchanter, so like we can get rid of the last unable to scream. Cards. Force of I know we hit Aether Vial. It's not good though, because I think in these Death and Taxes like decks, there's just not a lot of things to hit to target. It's like basically Aether Vial or bust. So I think Force Negation is poor. What else? Tide Shaper is good. Actually, Tide Shaper and Harbinger of the Seas make this matchup so much better than it would have in the past, because trying to keep something on the battlefield that can give you consistent island walk was always hard, but now it's a lot easier, especially with Harbinger of the Seas. Okay, I think I like all the creatures. Creature Dense is good. Hexcatcher probably doesn't have a whole lot of things to do, and it's a pretty weak Lord. That being said, I still might play it anyway. Stern Scolding, maybe. This card might be a lot better than I think if there's like a lot of good ETBs. Because a lot of the cards are just like ETB, get this effect. And it does have potentially the chance to counter an Aether Vial. It would be pretty poor on the draw because they get to play, they get to do what they want on turn 1. Okay, I don't know my opponent's list, but it's possible Consigned to Memory is very good. I'm going to assume Stern Scolding is not bad, and I'll bring in a Hexcatcher, and I guess we're going to call it a day. Spending 1 mana to counter 3 mana and 4 mana cards seems awesome to me. We have 2 Incongruities. Keep. One goes Marsh Flats Pass. We have an island, so let's play our island. Incongruity. What am I gonna get? I can get a Tide Shaper or a Sveloon. I already have a Sveloon. Slightly tempted to get the Sveloon anyway, just because the Tide Shaper is not very good. Like, the Tide Shaper is pretty clunky. And like if the Svelun is dealt with, we've got a backup Svelun. Okay, I think that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, we'll take the Svelun. I don't have like an island walk plan over here right now anyway. That might not seem intuitive, but our opponent has to have some sort of removal for the damn thing, so. What's going on here? Flooded Strand. Okay, I've got Stern Scolding. Okay, well, how our hand is set up. Our hand is set up pretty nice. I'm going to hold up the Stern Scolding. Let's play Incongruity. We can develop our board while holding Stern Scolding. I'll get, in this case, I think I'm going to take Deshana's Tidebinder. It's just a more useful card out of all the cards. And then when we get the 3 lands, it's going to make our opponent really paranoid. Like, they better start cracking them fetches or they're going to lose them. And probably go get some basic lands. Yeah, Swamp. Plains, yeah. Undermine them, Harbinger of the Seas. Thalia. Gone. Just gone. Oh, they have nothing to do? Well, in that case, let's just run out a Svelun and see what happens. Because I don't have to hold up the Stern Scolding anymore, so let's just tap out and play something. Another Thalia, okay. So I want to blink my Svelun. Come back. Charming Prince. Okay, so this is just some blink value deck. Can scry 2, gain some life. Decide to scry 2, probably looking for some lands. And then Thalia might even... Well, Thalia can't attack. Thalia's got to attack and blink my Svelun or nothing. 1 top, 1 bottom, so probably a land is coming. Land is on the way. Okay, cool. Another Svelun. Okay, so we can freely attack here. If they do a double block, we've got the Hex Catcher. Catch them off guard. Another island, which is fine. I don't mind curving out here. Oh, there is going to be a double block. Well, it's going to get punished. Unless they have Solitude. Okay, they did not. So that was just free for me. And I think we just pass. Our hand is a smidge clunky here. Ooh, ETB tapped land. Surveil 1. Put a card on top of their library, and we've got a Emperor of Bones, which is at the beginning of combat on your turn, exile up to 1 target card from your graveyard. Okay, that is happening. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Emperor of Bones, put a creature card exiled with Emperor of Bones onto the battlefield under your control with a finality counter on it. Okay. Gains haste, blah, blah, blah. Oh, is this a combo? Another target. I don't know. I don't know what the combo is, but it feels like there's a combo here. I feel like something's happening. Okay, so I get to attack again. Not going to attack with my Hex Catcher. Have a Subtlety, that's really strong. When they adapt, I can play Deshana's Tidebinder. That's not a problem. Or maybe the counters are going to put on some other way. This is like this. Like, didn't we play against this type of deck like last time? Adapt is sorcery speed, right? Oh no, maybe it's instant speed. We have combat. Go get another card. Getting the Prince. The Prince! If they attack, I could probably force some action by activating the Mutavault and attempting to block. Okay, they don't want to do anything, so I don't want to do anything. We don't need to do anything. Dismember is great. That's going to force even more action. Okay, so let's attack again. Another Mutavault. Honestly, the game is just playing out really well for us. You know, my only... Not that it's a regret, but I took a second Sveloon, assuming one would die, and I drew a third one. But this one-sided Howling Mine is working out pretty well for us. Now remember, Sveloon is legendary, so we do have Otawara up for 3 mana if necessary. Okay, this adapt is going to happen. We'll counter it with Tishana's Tidebinder. Mind you, we still have Sink into Stupor, Subtlety, Otawara, Dismember up. I mean, we got everything. Hand is very good. Skyclave. Might as well sink this. And then we can attack, probably for lethal. Okay, opponent says good games, well played. Well, I don't know, like I think this should be a bad matchup. Just didn't turn out that way. Did Incubation and Incongruity do anything? We got ourselves, well, we got the Tishana's Tidebinder, and we got an extra, we had Sveloon Insurance, because I already had a Sveloon in hand. Turns out the first Sveloon on the battlefield was good enough. I have no idea what's in their deck, though. Like, Skyclave is good versus us. Felia is good versus us. Emperor Bones, probably not. But these like really strong cards, and this is like the second time we've played against this in our, like we played against this in our last video, and I also won, but maybe it's just because of luck. I would assume I am a dog in this matchup. Anyway, that's round 3. Let's move on to round 4. Here for round 4, we're on the play. We're up against a Karuga deck, which I'm assuming this is Crashing Footfalls. Like, I got no confirmation. I don't know for sure if that's the case, but I'm assuming it's Crashing Footfalls. Our hand is quite good versus Crashing Footfalls, so I'm going to keep it. I think it's decent. We have, like, a turn 1 Ether Vial. We can attack with, like, I'll probably go Mutavault, Ether Vial, attack with the Mutavault turn 1, Vial and Ether Vial, then we can Vial in the Lord, and then have Sink into Stupor up versus Crashing Footfalls, which has to be played at sorcery speed. Like, this is an amazing card versus Footfalls. I imagine that this matchup is, it's either a buy or it's close to it. Okay, now I'm a little fearful. Oh, actually, do these versions only play Leyline Binding now? I think they do. I don't think there's any red mana that punishes me here. So, like a 1 mana removal spell. It's like fire or nothing. I think the 1 mana removal spell is now Leyline Binding. Oh god, don't punish me. Because if they play, what is it, Dead Gone? If they play Dead... Oh no, don't dead me. Don't do it! Ugh, okay, punished. Punished! Okay, so now we are actually in a little bit of trouble because I'm down a land drop, so they're on the play, so my Sink into Stupor is not going to be available by turn 3, which is horrible. Well, that's a very nice island. That's a nice island. That's pretty damn good for a Foundations island. That's pretty good. I like it. We got so punished, chat. We got so punished. Oh, that's interesting. Of all the things they want to ice my Vial, sure. No criticism. I mean, it's fine. But that's very lucky. It's very lucky that we drew that. I guess we'll play this. Also, I guess we just hardcast our Lord. We don't lose anything. Attack for 3. They'll go for a footfalls. We'll force a negation. We'll attack for 5. Then we hope to draw land. Basically. We hope to basically draw land. Oh, they're not even ready. They're not even ready for a footfalls. Okay, they do have ley line. Maybe I just forgot that they play both. I thought it was a one or the other sort of thing. I can't win without this Lord. Like, I'm just too low on resources, so I'm gonna use a Force of Negation here. And if we draw land, we still have Sync. Like, even if they get a Footfalls off, that's fine. Like, we can still win from that. Like, we have Island Walk for crying out loud. Here's a good question. Do I tick the Vial up? If I draw 3-drop... Well, if I draw 3-drop, I can play the Sync. So, okay, I guess I'll say no. Got the land. Which is nice. So, like, if I drew Harbinger of the Seas, for example, I could play the Sync into Stupor as a land, play the Harbinger, and probably screw them over from winning the game. So they have no white source, hence why the Leyline Binding is down. Okay, well, they got it now. And there's a white source. Oh, Omnath. Wasn't expecting you. So now we have to hope that they don't draw a fetch land, because fetch land will screw us. Like, they can gain a lot of life off of it. Lord is fantastic here. Put our opponent down to 1. And borderline dead? Well, I mean, don't underestimate Omnath. So they go Omnath, draw. Well, fetch land doesn't work. No, fetch land does work, because the fetch line gains 4 life. Okay. They drew a card. It's also important that the fetch land is white. Okay, it is, because that could get you another. That could get our opponent another Leyline Binding active. Although it has to shock them. So they fetch. What happens here? Oh, they get a bunch of mana. So they actually don't. How much? Which mana? Is it white? It is white, so they could play Leyline Binding off of this mana. Unfortunately. In fact, they could even play a Fire and Ice after that. Omnath is pretty good. You know, they played a land every single turn. It's actually possible that they... I took this Hedge Maze as a sign of weakness, as if they were short on mana. But now I realize maybe if they had the plains, they just played this so that they could curve into their Omnath. And actually, they weren't short on mana at all. If they have a fire here, we're probably dead. If they don't. Game goes on. Lord for the win. Okay, now what do I do? My opponent says, please friend, no top decks. My deck is great at top decks. Winky face. Okay, where do we put this vial? 3 or 2? Maybe 3, just in case I draw subtlety and then I need to tick it to 4 for next turn. What else? I'm just trying to think. What are my options here? I have nothing in my deck that draws cards. Okay, I'm going to take up to 3, because if I draw Incongruity and then find a 3-drop, then I can play it through Vial. Sorry, Incubation, that is. Incubation. Okay, we drew Tishana's Tidebinder, which actually is quite good, because that can prevent Omnath from... that hopefully can just shut Omnath off for at least a turn. and prevent life gain. Risen Reef. Okay. Oh, this is elementals. Do I let this resolve? You look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't, put it into your hand. So if they find a land... Okay, I'm actually just going to assume they got nothing. And if they have a land, then they have, like, no follow-up. Somehow I feel like if they had a land, they would lead on a land. Okay, I'm dead wrong. But also, if they did play a land, I still have lethal on the battlefield. I mean, a lot of things can go wrong here. Fire. What's it called? Fire. There's a million things. Okay, let's go. I am going to attack for lethal, by the way, even in the face of a potential removal spell. I have to hope that they just have a bunch of clunky 3-drops or something in their hand. Okay, that's great. So that gives us a lot of insurance. They went like, rip, good games. Well, there's only one. Only one game. Okay. I mean, maybe they had fire. Okay, is this matchup good? Hell no. This is terrible. This is a terrible matchup. Okay, what do we want? Maybe unable to scream? That can shut up. Like, it's not great versus stuff like Risen Reef, but on the other hand, I'd rather have more answers to Risen Reef than not. Okay, Flare of Denial definitely is good. We want to prevent those things from even hitting the battlefield in the first place. Force of Negation. What did we play for? We played Force of Negation versus like a bunch of removal spells. So this is Elementals, and it's a clunky Elementals deck. I mean, it still could be Footfalls, but I doubt it. I just sincerely doubt it at this point. Yeah, I'm going to take out Force of Negation. Even though, in theory, this is the better card on the draw. Yeah, I'm just going to leave Hexcatcher chilling there in the sideboard. Stern Scolding. Okay, what can this hit? This actually should be really good. This should be very good because maybe this is better than Flare of Denial. It can hit the... Or maybe I should just have all of them. Okay, maybe we're going to side out Unable to Scream and made a removal spell. I have to get rid of one more card. Okay, maybe another Dismember. So Stern Scolding can hit the Risen Reef. It can hit Solitude. What else can it hit? Maybe that's it. There's got to be some other elemental in this deck for me to nail. Actually, maybe this is just... I don't know what... I guess is this just a new makeup of, like, four-color Omnath these days? Like, I just don't know. I just don't know any other way. This Consign... Is it any good? Carry target triggered ability. That'd be good versus Solitude. But only Solitude. How many creatures do I have? I have 24. I think that's fine. I have a feeling I'm supposed to have Force Negation on the draw. Because they probably play with Teferi. Get rid of my last Dismember for this. Dismember's, by the way, Dismember in this... Like, I don't know exactly what the makeup of this deck is, but Dismember is probably not terrible. Hitting an Omnath is not that bad, in my opinion. Harbingers should be amazing. Tishana's Tiebinder is fine. Sphaloon is maybe 50-50. Okay, I'll keep this. Honestly, the Lords are or whatever. hand is interesting on the draw. I think I'm going to keep this. Because I can go Tide Shaper, and at least have one Flare of Denial up, and then we can still use our mana to go find some low-cost things. So we'll have, like, effectively... I have, like, 3 draw steps to find a second land. Or actually 4. And that's actually a good draw, because now I only need one more island to sort of go off with my hand. Karuga. It's still there. That's a beautiful card. I think it's probably going to play very well in this matchup. The only problem with Harbinger of the Seas is I don't have the second or third land yet. So we're attacking first, because if I play Tide Shaper and then attack, it'll sort of imply that I don't have anything else to play for the turn. And if they have removal, they're waiting for me to play another land and then play Master of the Pearl Trident to, like, basically use the removal on a much higher impact card. So that's why we attack first. Don't give more information than you have to. So we have 4 Sink into Stupor. There's a world where I could have put, like, split it up, 2 Sink, 2, I can never remember that weird incarnation thing. The 3 mana 1/4 that can redirect spells to itself. And you could find that with Incubation. That's possible. Whereas we can't find a Sink into Stupor with Incubation. But I just didn't think it was necessary to be able to have to dig for what's it called? Oh my god, Stern Scolding. I didn't think it was necessary that I had to look for lands with my Incubation, so I declined to do so. And now I'm in a weird spot, because if I tap out here, Stern Scolding's not up. I tapped out last turn, so I guess what that means... Okay, well, I'm just going to play my Incubation then. I would assume if they had Risen Reef, they would have played it last turn. Wonder, are you going to counter this? Oh, interesting. Nope. I do not pay. That was a win, in my opinion. That was a pretty good win. That wasn't bad. It's important to note that they have Mystical Dispute. Now we're hoping they go for Omnath and not Risen Reef. Okay, Flare. Easiest Flare in my life. Easiest Flare ever. Okay, now this is a problem. Like I said, I had like a clear 3 turns with this one lander, but now we're on turn 4, and this is like I gotta do something, you know? I gotta do something. Anyway, we have something. Let's hope our opponent just has a very highly interactive hand. They're all in on that Omnath. No, apparently they're all in on two Omnaths. And now we are probably lost. I mean, if they have only lands in hand, I could definitely see a world where we come back from here, especially with Shana's Tidebinder and Harbinger of the Seas in our hand. But they have to be really light on interaction. Okay, we did get a land. Let's play Incubation. Hold up Stern Scolding. We got a Lord. That's fine. So, one way to race an Omnath gaining a shitload of life is play Lords. And a lot of them. Like, our opponent has some sort of interaction that they want to play. Could be a combination of Mystical Dispute. Could be, what's it called? Solitude, which we got nailed down with Stern Scolding. That's very rude, opponent. That's super rude. Okay, I lose my vial. So we get a land. Now just how to use it best. I think I'm going to play it. I'm going to shock myself, and then I'm going to pass. And if they crack the Windswept Heath, I'm going to Tishana's Tidebinder it. And, like, basically my plan is I want to get this Harbinger of the Seas in play and have Stern Scolding up for the Solitude that I just assume is in my opponent's hand. And if this is Teferi, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. It is a Teferi. I can't really do anything about this except just throw my Tishana's Tidebinder on the battlefield. It's very funny how my opponents usually react with a fetching. Oh, I guess it's because they're going to counter this. That's fine. They're going to get a bunch of mana. They're going to draw a card. We have a Sveiloon. Okay, I have no choice but to... Oh no, they tick this thing up. Oh, that's terrible. Usually they draw a card. Okay, I'm just lost. I'm not even going to try here. So they did have Teferi. What else do they have? Not much else. I don't think I really want to change anything. I think I'm just going to keep this as it is. Or I could have some Hex Catchers. That deals with Teferi. Gives me more options on the at flash speed. Is there anything else I want to hedge for a Hex Catcher here? Also, Hex Catcher can help blow out some number of fires and dead and gones. Like, when you're on the play, you don't need Force Negation to beat a Teferi. You just need creatures on the board, and that's fine. I think that's it. I should also say, I think the deck looks great. Oh, Consign has a few more targets now that I think about it, because of Leyline Binding. I would love to go first. Hand is fine, I'm going to keep. Poor little Tide Shaper is probably just going to die for nothing. Incubation, that's okay. Okay, actually, let's play Incubation right now. If our opponent fetches to go get Mystical Dispute, they'll turn on my Tide Shaper. I think I'll get Sveiloon. It's just the out more powerful card. I don't need a Lord. Haha, you've turned my Tide Shaper on. Haha. Fool. Well, they let me get to my turn. which I think is a bit weird. So we're just going to attack for 2. And we're going to hold up Flare of Denial, Tashanda's Tidebinder, Stern Scolding. And then I'll have the option to play Svelun next turn with... Svelun with Stern Scolding up next turn. I think here, with this crack of the Flooded Strand, let's attempt to play Tashanda's Tidebinder. Okay, and they're like, whoops, yeah, I shouldn't have fallen for that trick. I shouldn't get this advantage. Oh, my opponent says no lands. That was the only land, and I just went for it. Like, I really shouldn't get this advantage between fetch lands and Tashanda's Tiebinders, but it's actually happening a pretty good chunk in the leagues. I mean, of course, when you play against better players. Well, here's the thing. Even when I play against better players, they are also forgetting about it like a good chunk of the time. Like, Tashanda's Tidebinder, for some reason, is just off the radar. Whereas back in the Rhinos metagame half a year ago, or more than half a year ago, no one reasonable it fell for this, but it's giving me a bunch of free wins right now. So just my warning, like, don't depend on this. It's very nice that we get this free equity, but like, just don't depend on it. As you play in better tournaments, better players will be like a little bit more astute about this. Anyway, that was round 4. Let's move on to round 5. We're on the play on round 5. Round is okay, I'll keep. Not particularly thrilled about it because I can't really use my Ether Vial unless I start drawing like a ton of creatures. Otherwise, like on turn 2, I'm just going to play this Master of the Pearl Trident. On turn 3, I'm going to play a Svelun. If I top deck a 4th land, I'll just play my Subtlety. So we sort of need to draw into just pure creatures from here. Blood Crypt, Shock, Flameblade Adept. Well, well, well. Isn't it? It's been a while since I played against Hollow One. Now, the basic rule versus Hollow One, keep a bunch of cards in your hand for when they go for, what's it called, Burning Inquiry. Anyway, I'm going to play this Master of the Pearl Trident because I need to play it. Street Wraith, Flameblade Adapt. So if anyone hasn't seen Flameblade Adapt for, I don't know, what has it been, 7 years? When you cycle or discard a card, it gets +1/+0 and it has Menace, so it's pretty hard to block. Oh, Faithless Looting. Discard. Vengevine! Oh, we're dead. Oh, we're supremely dead. Does it check, like, when the second is played, period? Okay, Burning Inquiry. I have no response. Draw 3, discard a bunch. Flameblade gonna get big. Oh, I lost all my good cards, and it was replaced by lands. Oh, good, I don't die. This could have been a terrible spot, but I do get hit for a good chunk of damage. I remember Vengevine. If you haven't seen that one in like 5 years, whenever you cast a spell, if it's the second creature spell you've cast this turn, you may return Vengevine from the graveyard to the battlefield. Now the Hollow One part of this deck is no... Woo! Hollow One part of this deck, not a big deal. The Vengevine part of the deck, big deal. But this is a big deal. This might just win on the spot. I never had access to this card back in the day. Wasn't even thinking about this as an out. I don't know what our opponent does from here. Lose? I mean, I don't know how many basic mountains are in their deck. It probably is a good chunk of them. I don't know how dependent they are on black mana. They have Black Leaf Clip. See, there's a mountain. But it's going to be hard to get 2... Okay, so they can Faithless Looting. But they can't play Hollow One, because they discard 2 cards. So... they would need to play 2 Hollow Ones to get Vengevine online. Anyway, I don't care about this 3-power attack, and we can start auto-warring it. We can play auto-war next turn anyway. We'll take Vial up to 3, so I can Vial in Svelun. Mutavault is useless. I should put this Svelun in now, just in case I have to protect versus Bolt. and I want to get a ward trigger. What do I want to do with this hand? Something, nothing. Am I attacking for lethal? I am. Each player draws 3 cards and discards 3 cards. So I like, my thought is to Otawara the Flameblade Adept, but it might be better to leave my opponent with as few cards in hand as possible so that if they draw Hollow One, that they'll just discard them. Ooh, Basking Rootwalla. Ooh, I'm having a Force of Negation. I needed that earlier. Okay, so that's dangerous. That won't have haste, but it'll be a problem. Okay, 4. I can take another 4. It's going to be close. Okay, if that's all they're going to do, I think I win. Because I can attack into the root wall, they have to chump block, and then I think I can just force a negation. Basically anything that they do. Basically anything. I have Dismember if I want it. Okay, what is it's pay a red, gets bigger, activate only once each turn. I have 7, 9 power in play. Yeah, let's just attack. Oh no, wait, hold on, wait a minute. Okay, I have Dismember in hand. I can kill the root walla. Yeah, I'm stupid. I have life points, let's use it. Okay. So this matchup might be, well, it's probably not balanced. I mean, I have no idea how many Blood Crypts and Blackleaf Cliffs they have in their deck. They can run pretty much well off of like a single mountain. So it's Consigned to Memory. That's interesting. Because I can counter the Vengevine triggers. I can just pay, if there's like 2 Vengevines in the graveyard, I just pay this thing twice. What else do we have access to that I never had to before? Unable to Scream looks like gas. Stern Scolding, how good is that? Rootwalla. Flameblade Adapt. Can't hit Hollow One. Might be missing a card. I'm not I don't know what's in these decks these days. Except for definitely Flameblade Adept, definitely Hollow One, definitely well, in this case, Vengevine. There didn't need to be Vengevine. I have no idea how good or bad Subtlety is in this matchup. Harbinger still looks good, though. Svalin looks good. Tideshaper is probably dubious. Incubation may or may not be good. It may be on the poorer side because I'm going to be... Tashawn's Tiebinder is probably bad on the draw. So I took out those cards. Stern Scolding just seems bad on the draw. I don't know how much I like this card on the draw. Hexcatcher seems okay, especially since when trying to hit the second end of Faithless Looting. Or, like, I don't know, maybe it's bad on the draw. These Hollow One decks sometimes have to tap out constantly, though. Maybe it's better than a Random Lord? I really like this Unable to Scream. That looks so good. Does this have any use? Actually, it can hit the Flameblade Adapt. It can hit Flameblade Adapt. It can hit a Vengevine. Just seems weak on the draw, that's all. But maybe I want to be more Interaction Jackson. Let's take out all the Tideshapers. Let's bring in Tishana. Let's bring in some Stern Scolding. Maybe it only hits Flameblade Adept. Okay, I don't know what's best. What did I say I wanted Consigned to Memory for? I don't remember. This hand's terrible. Well, terrible is a strong word. It's just not very good. I'll keep it. What do they have black for? Fatal Push, maybe Thoughtseize. There's just so much experimentation going around. I just have no idea what the good decks are. Or what they look like. In any form. Not to put any pressure on the audience here, but we are going for the 5-0 here. We're up a game here. Going for the 5-0 with Merfolk. Maybe Merfolk has a nice spot in the metagame at the moment. Is it going to be Burning Inquiry? Nope, Flame Bladed up. So like a million years ago, I would have loved to have Unable to Scream here, and now we do. This is beautiful. Ha! More turn 1 removal to neutralize like turn 1 threats. You can't do anything. You're gonna do nothing. Bloodstained Mire. Crack it. Get a mountain so I can Tide Shaper the damn thing. Oh, another Blood Crypt. Seems so greedy. Faithless Looting. I can't interact. Can't do anything. So if they discard, they can get a Hollow One in play. Blazing Rootwalla. Yeah, that happens. So they could get a... Well, they can't get... Did they screw up? Because they could have drawn Hollow One and then trigger the Vengevine. I think they screwed up. Okay, let's Incubation. And I'll play Vile. And I'll very likely get Harbinger of the Seas if I can find it. Only problem with Harbinger of the Seas is they'll totally see it coming. Alternatively, I could get Sveilun. That looks pretty strong. But Harbinger of the Seas is just, like, if you tap out, you lose. It's basically what that card says. So they have to leave a mana up for the rest of the game. And now I just need some way to protect the Harbinger of the Seas, and probably do we win on the spot? Or maybe not. Maybe, because if they play a mountain, like, what does this Harbinger do? It's not that important. All right, here comes the beat stick. Another Harbinger, that's great. But I'm not going to play it this turn. I think we're going to start off with Tide Shaper on Blood Crypt, and if they do have removal, we'll just slowly exhaust it like this. This is still worth killing because, like, if they want to pump up their Rootwalla, that'll be a big deal. Oh, Fatal Push. Okay, my card did nothing. One less removal. But here's an interesting thing. Fatal Push can't kill my Harbinger of the Seas. Oh, maybe they don't have Bolt. Maybe they just have a bunch of Fatal Pushes. Look at that, unable to... Finally, unable to Scream is doing something. I would be under immense pressure here if I didn't have that unable to Scream. Immense pressure. Crazy pressure. Do you even want to tick it up? Yeah, you do. Yeah, that's right. Do I have Hexcatcher in this deck? Best card would be drawing Hexcatcher. No, I have none. Next best card would be... I don't know what I want. Lord. Does Lord do anything? Probably not. So I'll just play this land and pass. And then we're going to get into the trick of viling in a Harbinger of the Seas at our upkeep and then making them tap down mana. Faithless Looting, sure. Oh my god! 2 Vengevines. We gotta make sure those don't do anything. Okay, well, they don't have 2 creatures to play this turn. Thank God. We're not going to block. It looks like we win from here. Because we have 2 Harbinger of the Seas. So what do I want to do? Just flash in the Subtlety? Yeah, let's just get some stuff on the board. Looks like we're about to lock it up. They can beat one Harbinger of the Seas, but they can't beat the other one. Okay, I'm going to put a stop at my draw step. We're going to make them float mana. Oh, okay, they didn't even try. No resistance. Maybe choose target creature. Do I have green mana? I don't have green mana. I don't understand. Why won't it let me play my incubation? The top 5 cards of your library. There are creatures in play, I understand. Oh, it's the draw step. I understand, okay. I was like, why is only giving me the option of incubation? This doesn't make any sense. Sveloon is fine. Done. But I'm going to put the other Harbinger in play because we need the insurance. Technically, I should have attacked first before playing the second Harbinger. I don't think that's going to change our opponent's decision by very much. Harbinger of the Seas 2024. Going to be a powerhouse going into 2025 and beyond. The greatest card ever printed for Merfolk. The greatest card ever printed for Merfolk. And unable to scream. A very interesting card printed for Merfolk. Oh! But can 2 creatures be played in 1 turn? Oh! The game is even. Oh, that was rough. Badoomsh. This is 12 damage. Okay, I can attack for 5 and then vial in this Sveloon. Like, damn. That's all I have to say is just damn. What even happened to me? They're gonna lightning bolt my subtlety. Okay, sure. Do they have any more? They do have a Faithless Looting in the graveyard. They have 2 Faithless Lootings in the graveyard. We're gonna keep this thing on 3. Just attack. Well, okay, that didn't go according to plan at all. Wasn't really expecting that. Maybe I should have. They have another Faithless Looting. Did I play a land? No, I didn't. Okay. Because I should never play lands versus this deck. At 4 lands, I shouldn't play anymore. That's completely unnecessary. 1 hollow 1. Do you have a second one? Thank God. I'd be so screwed. Okay, we just need a random Merfolk, and we can at least attack with this Sveloon. So, assuming that I assume that they don't have any creatures in hand at this point with this hollow 1 in play. Ooh, okay, that's interesting. So we're going to activate this Mutavault. So it's a creature when this Harbinger of the Seas enters the battlefield. Now do I want to play this line just in case I draw Tishana's Tidebinder? No, if I just draw Tishana's Tidebinder, that's okay. Okay, we're going to attack with this Sveloon. We're going to block with the hollow 1. But then we're going to play a Harbinger of the Seas. This looks confusing to my opponent. I don't blame them. Maybe I should have attacked with the Mutavault. Because if they block the Mutavault, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I could get in, like, 2 damage here. Yeah, I could have gotten clean 2 damage. Anyway, I'm going to get a clean nothing now. Okay, so Svalin's indestructible. Again, keep my lands in hand. And just pass. Okay, Faithless Looting's going to get played. This Phoenix is in the graveyard. How does this work? You may cast... They dump 2 Bowmasters. You may cast it from your graveyard using its Bestow ability. Bestow for a red and collect Evidence 6. I'm going to die very quickly to that card. Okay, I need a Tide Shaper, right? I need a Tide Shaper, or Lord of Atlantis, that's fine too. Okay, well, we're flooding now. Is it worth holding back? Okay, let's say you play this Bestow ability. What is it? +2 and has flying and haste. Okay, the good news about that is it'll soak up the entire turn. And it won't deal enough damage. We would be winning the race, so I'll just pass. So black cards are Bowmasters and Fatal Push, it seems. Found another land, which looks pretty useless. Ooh, Burning Inquiry. Thank you. Please, by all means. Help my hand. I have 3 donuts. Woo! If we can make it to our turn, we win. What do they discard? I'm not sure. I guess they were looking for more mountains. This is victory, right? Just Lord, attack 4. Actually, just 1 Lord works. Okay, we did it! Unless there's some very magical card coming around the corner, which I don't think is coming. Burning Inquiry worked for us. And like I said, you gotta keep up those lands in hand. Don't play your land drops beyond what you need, because eventually your opponent plays Burning Inquiry and actually just helps your hand. And that's it. We win the game, and we get the 5-0. The 5-0 on camera. But almost all my results are on camera these days. Okay, Deck Tech. What can we say? Unable to Scream finally worked the way I wanted it to work. I have high hopes that this will work versus... This will be playable versus Energy. High hopes. It has not executed that way on camera, but I have high hopes that it will work. Worked great versus Hollow One, and I imagine in this new metagame of like Opal, with Opal and, well, some Opal decks it might be useful, but also a lot of Faithless Looting decks Unable to Scream hopefully is going to be useful, particularly versus like, you know, that Hollow One deck. But the real question was Incubation. Well, what do we think about this card? I mean, it did stuff. Like, you know, I felt like I had a little bit more control over my fate. Or was it just, or did it do nothing? There definitely, I would say 50% of the time, I can't tell if this actually did anything for me. On the upside, I was able to find Harbinger of the Seas. I was able to find Svaelun a little bit more often than usual. I think we got Tashanda's Tidebinder once. There was never a situation where we had to dig for Lords. But the possibility was there. It's up in the air if we really needed it. So I'm open to exploring this thing a little bit further. It's really hard to grind games for me because, like, I'm the only one playing with cards like this, and my volume isn't super big as I'm trying to pay a little bit more attention to YouTube and less attention to grinding the crap out of this deck. So, but I would like to play test this card some more. If cards like Harbinger, Svaelun, and Tashanda's Tidebinder, even sometimes Subtlety, are going to be really important to have versus X number of decks. But I think the number one being Harbinger of the Seas, while still being pretty useful versus a, like, you know, Incubation, can still find Tideshaper, can still find Lords. Like, it's not stone cold useless. All right. Let me know what you think of this 5-0 in the comment section below. Thank you, my fish fam, for watching and supporting me, and I will see you next time.